The space around Kepler 442 was supposed to be empty. Commander Velthar had been patrolling this sector for 3 years, and nothing interesting ever happened here. His 12 ships moved in perfect formation through the dark void, their sensors sweeping for anything unusual. That was when they found it. The object appeared on their screens like a ghost. It was small compared to their massive warships, maybe 200 meters long. The shape was strange, smooth and curved like water frozen in motion. There were no visible weapons, no engine ports, no communication arrays. It just floated there, silent and still. "Sir, we're getting strange readings," reported his sensor officer, her voice tight with confusion. "The hull material, it doesn't match anything in our database." Velthar moved to the main display. The alien ship rotated slowly, catching the distant light of the system's star. Its surface seemed to shimmer, like it was made of liquid metal that had been polished to perfection. "Run a full scan," he ordered. "I want to know what that thing is made of." The scanning beams hit the unknown vessel. Immediately, alarms started going off across the bridge. The readings made no sense. According to their instruments, the ship's hull was made of materials that couldn't exist. The energy signatures suggested technology that was centuries beyond anything they had ever seen. "This is impossible," whispered the science officer. "The power readings are off the charts, but we can't detect any reactor or power source." Velthar felt a cold fear creep up his spine. In 40 years of military service, he had encountered dozens of alien species. Some were peaceful, some were hostile, but all of them followed the same basic rules of physics and technology. This ship followed no rules he understood. "Open a communication channel," he commanded. "Standard first contact protocols." The message went out in 17 different languages, demanding that the unknown vessel identify itself and submit to hegemony authority. For long minutes, there was only silence. Then the response came, and it changed everything. The voice was calm, clear, and spoke in perfect hegemony standard. Not the broken, machine-translated version that most primitive species managed, but flawless pronunciation with proper grammar and cultural references. "This is Captain Jiho Kim of the human vessel Eternal Dawn. We greet you in peace and thank you for your patience while our systems came online." Velthar exchanged shocked looks with his officers. How did this unknown species know their language so perfectly? How did they know hegemony cultural protocols? "Unknown vessel, you are in violation of hegemony space. Prepare to be boarded for inspection." There was a pause before the human responded. "We appreciate your position, Commander. However, we must respectfully decline. Perhaps we could arrange a diplomatic meeting instead. We have much to discuss." Inside the human ship, Captain Jiho Kim was just waking up from a long sleep. The cryogenic chamber hissed as it opened, and he sat up slowly, his body adjusting to being awake again. The ship's computer had awakened him when it detected the alien vessel's status. "Report," he said to the empty air. Immediately, 3 of his crew members appeared on holographic displays around him. Dr. Minji Park, their xenobiologist, spoke first. "We have 12 alien ships surrounding us. They appear to be military vessels, heavily armed. Their technology level is interesting." "Interesting how?" Kim asked as he pulled on his uniform. "They're using fusion reactors and basic energy weapons, plasma cannons, particle beams, things like that. Their faster than light drives are crude but functional. I'd say they're about where we were 50 years ago." Engineer Woobin Lee appeared on another display. "Captain, their scanning attempts are getting more aggressive. They're trying to penetrate our hull with sensor beams. Should I activate the defensive screens?" "Not yet," Kim replied. "Let them scan. They won't find anything. Their instruments can understand anyway." Tactical Officer Yuna Choi joined the conversation. "Sir, they're demanding we submit to boarding. 12 ships, each about 3 kilometers long. Big, but not particularly advanced. If things go bad, we can handle them." Kim nodded and made his way to the bridge. The Eternal Dawn was humanity's first deep space exploration vessel designed to make contact with alien civilizations. It was also much more than it appeared to be. The bridge was small and simple, with just 4 crew stations. Through the main view screen, Kim could see the alien fleet. The ships were huge and imposing, covered in weapon ports and armored plating. They looked like floating cities designed for war. Open a channel, Kim ordered. The alien commander appeared on screen. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. His uniform was decorated with medals and rank insignia. Everything about him screamed military authority. "I am Commander Velthar of the Hegemony 4th Fleet," the alien said. "You will surrender your vessel immediately and submit to questioning." Kim smiled politely. "I'm afraid that's not possible, Commander. However, I'd be happy to discuss the situation. You see, we're not exactly what we appear to be." "You are a primitive species with a single small ship," Velthar replied. "You have no choice in this matter." "Actually," Dr. Minji Park interjected, from her station, "we've been watching your civilization for quite some time. Your technology is impressive for its age, but it's based on some fundamental misunderstandings about the nature of space and time." The alien commander's expression darkened. "Impossible. Our science is the most advanced in the galaxy." Engineer Wubin Li looked up from his console. "Captain, they're powering weapons. Should I respond?" Kim considered this. The situation was delicate. Humanity had been preparing for first contact for decades, but they had hoped it would be under better circumstances. Now they were surrounded by hostile aliens who clearly intended to capture or destroy them. "What's our power status?" Kim asked. "Full power available," Wubin replied. "The dimensional core is stable and all systems are online." "And our defensive capabilities?" Tactical Officer Yuna Choi smiled grimly. "Ready and waiting, sir. These ships won't even scratch our paint." Kim turned back to the screen where Commander Velthar was waiting for a response. "Commander, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We're not a primitive species with a small ship. We're humans, and this vessel represents technology that your civilization won't develop for several centuries." "Prove it!" Velthar snarled. Kim looked at his crew. This wasn't how they had wanted first contact to go, but sometimes you had to work with what you were given. "Very well," Kim said calmly. "Dr. Park, please transmit our cultural database to the commander's ship. Include the sections on hegemony, history, technology, and military tactics, all 17 of their major languages, plus the 12 minor dialects used in their outer colonies." Velthar's eyes widened. How could an unknown species know about their outer colonies? That information was classified at the highest levels. The data transmission lasted only seconds, but it contained information that should have been impossible for any outsider to possess. Detailed analyses of hegemony technology, accurate historical records going back thousands of years, and cultural knowledge that even most hegemony citizens didn't know. "How do you know these things?" Velthar whispered. "We've been watching," Kim replied simply. "Preparing. Learning. We knew this day would come eventually." In the depths of space around them, more alien ships began to appear. Velthar had called for reinforcements, and the hegemony was responding in force. Soon there would be hundreds of ships surrounding the small human vessel. Kim watched the displays as more and more enemies arrived. "It seems like this is going to be more complicated than we hoped." Dr. Minji Park was analyzing the new arrivals. "Captain, we're detecting ships from multiple species. This isn't just a hegemony patrol anymore. They're assembling a proper war fleet." "Time to wake up the others," Kim decided. "Send a message back to Earth. Tell them we've made contact and it's not going well." The message raced across space at speeds the aliens couldn't imagine, carrying news that would change everything. Humanity's long isolation was over, and their first neighbors were not friendly, but the aliens surrounding them had no idea what they were really dealing with. They saw a small, helpless ship with primitive occupants. They couldn't have been more wrong. Dr. Minji Park stood at her science station, watching the alien ships with professional interest. More vessels kept appearing every hour, and each new arrival brought different technology and design philosophies. She was learning more about galactic civilization in one day than human scientists had hoped to discover in decades. "Captain," she called to Kim, "they're requesting a technical exchange. Commander Velthar wants to understand our propulsion system." Kim nodded. "Give them the basic overview. Nothing classified, but enough to make them think." Minji opened a communication channel to the alien flagship. Commander Velthar appeared on screen, flanked by several officers who looked like scientists and engineers. "Commander," Minji began, "I understand you're curious about our technology. I'd be happy to explain some basic principles. Your ship shows no visible propulsion system, said one of the alien scientists. How do you achieve faster-than-light travel? Minji smiled. We don't use conventional FTL drives. Instead, we manipulate space-time itself. Think of it like folding a piece of paper to bring two distant points together. The aliens exchanged confused glances. Folding space-time requires enormous amounts of energy, the scientist protested. Your ship is too small to carry the necessary power systems. That's where you're making an assumption, Minji replied. You think of power in terms of traditional reactors. We've moved beyond that limitation. On another part of the human ship, Engineer Wubin Lee was monitoring the alien scanning attempts. Their sensors were getting more sophisticated with each try, but they still couldn't penetrate the Eternal Dawn's hull. The materials the ship was made from didn't just block their scans. They absorbed and redirected the sensor energy. Captain, Wubin called out, they're getting frustrated with their scans. Want me to show them something interesting? Kim considered this. What did you have in mind? I could give them a look at our power core. Nothing detailed, just enough to blow their minds. Do it. Wubin adjusted the ship's sensors to allow a narrow scan beam to penetrate one specific section of their hull. For exactly 3 seconds, the alien instruments detected what was inside. On the Hegemony flagship, alarms started screaming. The sensor operator stared at his display in shock before reporting to Commander Velthar. Sir, we detected their power source. It's a miniaturized star. Somehow, they've contained a nuclear fusion reaction in a space no bigger than a basketball. Velthar felt his blood turn cold. A controlled star was theoretical technology that his civilization's best scientists said was impossible. The energy requirements to contain such a reaction would require a planet-sized facility. Are you certain? He demanded. The readings are unmistakable, sir. They have a star in a box. Meanwhile, Tactical Officer Yuna Choi was running diagnostics on the Eternal Dawn's defensive systems. The ship looked small and harmless from the outside, but appearances were deceiving. The hull wasn't just armor, it was a complex system that could reconfigure itself at the molecular level. All defensive systems are green, she reported to Captain Kim. Adaptive hull is responding normally, quantum shields are stable, and the reality anchor is ready for deployment. Reality anchor? Kim asked, though he knew the answer. Yes, sir. If they attack, we can create a localized area where their weapons simply won't work. Physics becomes optional within our defensive field. Dr. Minji Park was still explaining human technology to the increasingly nervous aliens. Our hull material is what we call programmable matter. It can change its properties based on what we need. Right now it's configured for space travel, but it could become transparent or liquid or harder than diamond. The alien scientist looked sick. That violates conservation of mass. Only if you think about matter in traditional terms, Minji replied cheerfully. We've learned to work with the quantum foam that underlies all matter. We can convince atoms to behave differently than they normally would. On the alien flagship, Commander Velthar was receiving reports that made his head spin. His science, officers were telling him that the human ship contained technology that shouldn't exist. Miniaturized stars, matter that could change its basic properties, and propulsion systems that folded space itself. Sir, his communication officer interrupted, we're receiving a priority message from Hegemony High Command. The message was brief and urgent. Long-range sensors had detected massive fleet movements throughout the galaxy. Multiple species were mobilizing their military forces and moving toward this sector. Word of the human ship was spreading, and everyone wanted to see it for themselves. How long until reinforcements arrive? Velthar asked. The first additional. Fleets will be here in 6 hours. Within a day, we'll have over 200 ships in this system. Velthar nodded grimly. If the humans really possessed technology this advanced, they couldn't be allowed to return to their homeworld. The implications for galactic power balance were staggering. Back on the human ship, Captain Kim was reading a priority message from Earth. Dr. Subin Han, the director of the Human Defense Initiative, was reporting that they had detected the alien fleet movements. Captain, the message read, long-range sensors show military mobilization across 17 star systems. They're treating your contact as a threat assessment scenario. We're accelerating our timeline. The Prometheus Unbound will arrive in 18 hours. Kim shared the message with his crew. The Prometheus Unbound was humanity's first true warship, designed using everything they had learned about galactic technology over the past century of observation. "Things are about to get interesting," he remarked. Engineer Wubin Lee looked up from his station. "Captain, the aliens are asking about our defensive capabilities. Specifically, they want to know if we have weapons." "What should I tell them?" Dr. Minji Park asked. Kim thought about this. The truth was that the Eternal Dawn was primarily an exploration vessel. It had defensive systems that were incredibly advanced by galactic standards, but it wasn't designed for combat. The ship could protect itself, but it couldn't fight a war. "Tell them we prefer diplomatic solutions," Kim finally said. "But mention that we're capable of defending ourselves if necessary." Minji conveyed this message to the aliens, along with some technical details about their defensive systems. She explained that their shields didn't deflect energy. They absorbed it and stored it in what humans called quantum batteries. "Your most powerful weapons actually make us stronger," she told the shocked alien scientists. "We can absorb the energy and use it to power our systems." The implications of this hit the aliens like a physical blow. Their entire military doctrine was based on overwhelming firepower. If the humans could absorb energy attacks and convert them to power, then traditional warfare was useless against them. Commander Velthar was getting desperate. His superiors were demanding answers, but every answer just raised more questions. How had an unknown species developed technology that was centuries ahead of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy? "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the human ship is receiving some kind of transmission. Long-range, very tight beam. We can't intercept it." "From where?" "Unknown. The signal is too sophisticated for us to trace." What Velthar didn't know was that the transmission was coming from Earth, 37 light-years away. Human communication technology didn't rely on electromagnetic signals that traveled at light speed. Instead, they used quantum entanglement to transmit information instantaneously across any distance. The message contained updated intelligence about the gathering alien fleets, as well as strategic recommendations from Earth's military command. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades, and they had contingency plans for every possible scenario. Dr. Subin Han's latest message was particularly interesting. "Captain, our long-range probes have been monitoring galactic communication networks. The aliens are scared. They're calling emergency council sessions and mobilizing military forces across half the galaxy. Some species are even discussing preemptive strikes against Earth." Kim shared this information with his crew. The situation was escalating beyond a simple first contact scenario. They were looking at the possibility of a galactic war, with humanity facing the combined military might of dozens of alien civilizations. "Sir," Tactical Officer Yuna Choi said quietly, "maybe it's time to show them what we're really capable of." Kim nodded slowly. The time for subtle demonstrations was ending. Soon, they would have to prove that humanity wasn't just technologically advanced. They were advanced enough to defend themselves against the entire galaxy if necessary. The alien ships continued to gather around them like vultures circling wounded prey. But the prey was far from helpless, and the predators had no idea what they were really hunting. The alien fleet had grown to over 50 ships, with more arriving every hour. Commander Velthar stood on his bridge, staring at the small human vessel that sat calmly in the center of his formation. His superiors had been very clear about their orders. Capture the human technology or destroy it. Under no circumstances could it be allowed to escape. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "all ships are in position. We have enough firepower to destroy a small moon." Velthar nodded. The humans had been polite but firm in refusing to surrender. Now it was time to show them the consequences of defying the hegemony. "Open a channel to the human ship," he ordered. Captain Kim's face appeared on the main screen, looking perfectly calm despite being surrounded by an overwhelming enemy force. "Captain Kim," Velthar began, "this is your final warning. Surrender your vessel and submit to hegemony authority, or we will be forced to take it by force." Kim smiled slightly. "Commander, I appreciate your position, but I'm afraid that won't be possible. However, I'd like to offer you a demonstration of why attacking us would be inadvisable." "You have one small ship against 50 of our most advanced warships," Velthar replied. "What demonstration could you possibly offer?" "You'll see," Kim said calmly. Please have your weapons officer target our ship with your most powerful weapon. Fire when ready. Velthar was confused. Was the human captain insane? You want us to shoot at you? Just once, Kim confirmed. Use your best shot. I think you'll find the results educational. On the human ship, Tactical Officer Yuna Choi was making final preparations. Captain, all defensive systems are ready. Quantum absorption fields are at maximum capacity. Energy storage? Kim asked. Empty and ready to receive, Yuna replied. We can absorb enough energy to power a small city for a year. Dr. Minji Park was monitoring the alien communications. They're arguing about whether to actually shoot at us. Some of their officers think it's a trap. It is a trap, Engineer Wubin Lee said with a grin. Just not the kind they're expecting. Commander Velthar made his decision. If the humans wanted to be destroyed, he would accommodate them. Target: the human vessel with the main plasma cannon, full power. The Hegemony flagship's primary weapon was a marvel of alien engineering. It could punch through the armor of any known warship and had enough power to crack a planet's crust. The massive cannon swiveled to focus on the tiny human ship. Firing, the weapons officer announced. The blast was incredible. A beam of superheated plasma containing enough energy to vaporize a mountain lanced out from the alien flagship directly at the Eternal Dawn. The other ships in the fleet watched in anticipation, expecting to see the human vessel simply disappear. Instead, something impossible happened. The plasma beam hit the human ship and simply vanished. There was no explosion, no flash of light, no debris. The energy just disappeared as if it had never existed. What happened? Velthar demanded. Where did our shot go? On the human ship, Tactical Officer Yuna Choi was smiling at her displays. Energy absorption complete, Captain. We've stored 847 terajoules of power in our quantum batteries. Any damage? Kim asked. None whatsoever. Their plasma beam was actually pretty weak compared to what our systems can handle. Dr. Minji Park opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. Thank you for the demonstration, Commander. Your weapon performed exactly as our calculations predicted. Velthar stared at his instruments in disbelief. According to his sensors, the human ship had somehow absorbed the entire energy output of his most powerful weapon. Not deflected it, not blocked it, absorbed it completely. How is that possible? He whispered. Our defensive systems don't work the way yours do, Dr. Minji Park explained patiently. Instead of trying to stop incoming energy, we capture it and redirect it into our power systems. You've just given us enough power to run our ship for several months. The implications hit the alien fleet like a physical blow. Their weapons weren't just useless against the humans. They were actually making the enemy stronger. Every shot they fired would only increase the human ship's power reserves. Sir, the alien science officer reported with a shaking voice, our readings show that their power levels have increased dramatically. It's as if they fed our plasma beam directly into their reactor. Engineer Wubin Lee was monitoring the alien communications, which were becoming increasingly panicked. Captain, they're starting to understand what just happened. Several ships are requesting permission to withdraw. Not yet, Kim replied. We're not finished with our demonstration. He opened a channel to Commander Velthar. Commander, we appreciate your cooperation. Now, would you like to see what we do with all that energy you've given us? Velthar felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean? We call it a proportional response, Kim said calmly. Tactical Officer Yuna Choi activated the ship's energy discharge system. A thin beam of coherent energy, no thicker than a pencil, lanced out from the Eternal Dawn toward a small asteroid, floating nearby. The asteroid was about the size of a building, nothing compared to the massive warships, but large enough to serve as a demonstration target. The beam touched the asteroid for exactly 1 second. The rock simply ceased to exist. Not exploded, not vaporized, it was completely converted to energy and dispersed into space. Where there had been thousands of tons of solid matter, there was now empty vacuum. That asteroid contained roughly the same mass as your largest warship, Dr. Minji Park announced to the stunned alien fleet. The energy beam we used was precisely equivalent to the plasma shot you fired at us. We simply returned it in a more focused form. The alien fleet was dead silent. Every ship's crew was staring at the empty space where the asteroid had been, trying to comprehend what they had just witnessed. The humans had taken a weapon designed to destroy starships and somehow concentrated it into a beam that could erase matter from existence. Commander Velthar's hands were shaking as he gripped his command chair. "What kind of technology is this?" "Advanced," Kim replied simply. "Commander, I want to be very clear about our position. We have no desire for conflict, but we are quite capable of defending ourselves. Your fleet poses no threat to us whatsoever." "Impossible," Velthar muttered. "No single ship can stand against an entire fleet." "You're thinking in terms of conventional warfare," Dr. Minji Park explained. "We don't fight with bigger guns or thicker armor. We fight by changing the rules of physics in our local area." As if to demonstrate her point, Engineer Wubin Li activated one of the ship's more exotic systems. Space around the Eternal Dawn began to ripple visibly, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The alien sensors went wild as the laws of physics became unstable within a kilometer of the human ship. "What you're seeing," Wubin announced over the communication channel, "is a localized distortion of space-time. Within our influence field, we can adjust things like the speed of light, the force of gravity, and the rate of time itself." One of the alien ships tried to move closer to get better sensor readings. As soon as it entered the distortion field, its engines died. The ship found itself trapped in an area where the physics that made faster-than-light travel possible simply didn't work anymore. "Don't worry," Kim assured the panicked crew. "Your ship is perfectly safe. We've just temporarily suspended the physical laws that allow your drive systems to function. Move back outside our field and everything will return to normal." The alien ship limped backward until it was clear of the distortion. Immediately, its engines came back online and its instruments began working properly again. Commander Velthar was receiving reports from across his fleet. Ship after ship was confirming the same impossible readings. The human vessel wasn't just advanced. It was operating on principles that violated everything they understood about the universe. "Sir," his communication officer interrupted, "we're receiving urgent messages from Hegemony Command. They're detecting massive energy signatures throughout this system. Our sensor data is being transmitted to every military headquarters in the galaxy." Velthar realized with growing horror that this confrontation was being watched by every major civilization. The humans weren't just demonstrating their superiority to his fleet, they were announcing it to the entire galaxy. "Captain Kim," Velthar said carefully, "what do you want from us?" Kim considered this question seriously. "What we want, Commander, is very simple. We want to be left alone to conduct our peaceful exploration. Unfortunately, your response to our presence suggests that's not going to be possible." "You could destroy us all," Velthar said quietly. "Yes," Kim agreed. "But that would solve nothing. Destroying your fleet would only convince the galaxy that we're a threat to be eliminated at all costs. Instead, we're going to send a different message. Which is that humanity is not your enemy, but we are not your prey either. We are something new in this galaxy, and the old rules don't apply to us." As if summoned by his words, new contacts began appearing on both human and alien sensors. More ships were arriving, but these weren't reinforcements for the Hegemony fleet. These were human vessels, and they were unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. The demonstration was about to become something much larger. The space around the confrontation suddenly filled with new energy signatures. Commander Velthar watched his sensors in growing alarm as 12 new contacts appeared, seemingly from nowhere. These weren't ships that had traveled to the location. They had simply materialized out of empty space. "Sir," his sensor operator reported with a trembling voice, 12 unknown vessels just appeared within our formation. They're between our ships and the original human vessel. The new ships were larger than the Eternal Dawn, but still smaller than the massive alien warships. What made them terrifying wasn't their size. It was the way space itself seemed to bend around them. Reality looked unstable near the human vessels, as if the universe couldn't quite decide what physical laws should apply. On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Captain Kim received a communication from the lead newcomer. "Captain Kim, this is Dr. Subin Han aboard the Prometheus Unbound. Sorry we're late. We had to make a few stops along the way." Kim smiled with relief. Dr. Han was one of humanity's leading experts on advanced physics and the director of their deep space defense program. If anyone could handle this situation, it was her. Dr. Han, good to see you. I'm afraid our first contact situation has become somewhat complicated. So I see, Han replied, studying the alien fleet surrounding them. 53 hostile ships, multiple species, all armed with conventional weapons. This should be educational for them. Dr. Han opened a general communication channel to address the entire alien fleet. Her voice was calm and professional, like a teacher speaking to students. Greetings. I am Dr. Subin Han of the Human Defense Initiative. I understand there has been some confusion about our capabilities. Allow me to clarify the situation. Commander Velthar found his voice. More human ships? How many of you are there? Sector. This system? Just 13 ships, Dr. Han replied. But that's more than sufficient for our current needs. 13 ships against our entire fleet? Velthar couldn't hide his disbelief. Commander, you're still thinking in terms of traditional warfare. Numbers become irrelevant when you can rewrite the basic laws of physics. To demonstrate her point, Dr. Han activated the Prometheus Unbound's reality manipulation field. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Space within a 10-kilometer radius of her ship became visibly distorted. The alien vessels caught within the field found their instruments failing as the constants they depended on became variables. What you're experiencing, Dr. Han explained calmly, is a localized alteration of fundamental forces. Within our field of influence, the speed of light is variable, gravity can be reversed, and time flows at whatever rate we choose. One of the alien ships tried to fire its weapons, but nothing happened. The energy simply dispersed harmlessly as the physics that allowed coherent energy beams to exist were temporarily suspended. Your weapons require specific physical constants to function, Dr. Han continued. Change those constants, and the weapons become useless. This is child's play for our technology. Dr. Minji Park was monitoring the alien communications, which had devolved into barely controlled panic. Captain, they're reporting complete systems failures across multiple ships. Their technology simply can't function in altered space. Engineer Wubin Lee was coordinating with the other human vessels. The Prometheus Unbound's reality anchor is working perfectly. We now have effective control over a cubic light hour of space. Captain Kim opened a private channel to Dr. Han. Doctor, how much should we reveal? Everything, Han replied without hesitation. The galaxy needs to understand what they're dealing with. Half measures will only lead to more conflicts. She switched back to the general communication channel. Commander Velthar, I'm going to share some information that may be difficult for you to accept. Humanity has been aware of galactic civilization for over a century. Impossible, Velthar protested. We would have detected your presence. Not with your current technology, Dr. Han said gently. We've been observing you through methods you haven't discovered yet. Quantum sensors that exist in parallel dimensions, monitoring devices smaller than atoms, consciousness transfer probes that can inhabit your own people without them knowing. The implications hit the alien fleet like a hammer blow. If the humans had been watching them for a century, they knew everything. Every military secret, every technological advancement, every political alliance. We know about your recent war with the Zephyrian Collective, Dr. Han continued. We know about your secret weapons research on Kepler 438b. We know about the political uprising in your outer colonies that your government has been hiding from the public. Commander Velthar felt sick. Those were state secrets known only to the highest levels of hegemony command. How could an unknown species know details that even most of his own officers didn't have access to? Why? He asked weakly. Why have you been watching us? Because we knew this day would come, Dr. Han replied. We knew that eventually our civilizations would meet. We wanted to be prepared. Lieutenant Kyung-Soo Im, the young communications officer aboard the Prometheus Unbound, was monitoring data streams from dozens of sources. Dr. Han, we're intercepting communications from 17 different star systems. Word of this encounter is spreading across the galaxy. Let it spread, Han replied. It's time the galaxy knew the truth. She addressed the alien fleet again. Commanders, what you're witnessing today is not the full extent of human technology. The ships you see here are our exploration and light defense vessels. They represent technology we developed 30 years ago. 30 years old? Velthar whispered. Our current military technology is far more advanced. For example, the ship you're looking at can exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We're not just in your universe right now. We're in 17 parallel realities all at the same time. To prove her point, the Prometheus Unbound began to flicker. For brief moments, it became translucent, as if it wasn't entirely real. The alien sensors couldn't track it consistently because it was phasing in and out of their dimensional space. Multidimensional existence allows us to be everywhere and nowhere at once, Dr. Han explained. We can attack from dimensions you can't access, defend from positions that don't exist in your reality, and retreat to universes where your weapons simply don't work. Engineer Wubin Li was analyzing the alien fleet's power systems. Dr. Han? Their technology is based on principles we abandoned 50 years ago. They're using brute force methods where we use elegant physics manipulation. Show them, Han decided. Wubin activated a demonstration that had become known as the Galaxy Constructor. Using the ship's reality manipulation capabilities, he created a perfect scale model of their current star system, complete with planets, moons, and all 53 alien ships, in the space between the human and alien fleets. The model was only a few kilometers across, but every detail was perfect. The alien crews could see tiny versions of their own ships, moving in exactly the same patterns as the real vessels. This is a working model of our local space, Wubin announced. Every ship, every planet, every piece of debris larger than a pebble. We created it by manipulating matter at the quantum level and assembling it according to our sensor data. Commander Velthar stared at the impossible display. They had created matter from energy, assembling billions of atoms into perfect replicas of objects millions of kilometers away. If we can create matter, Dr. Han said quietly, we can also destroy it, or change it, or move it to places it shouldn't be able to go. The model suddenly changed. The tiny replica of Velthar's flagship began to glow, then slowly transformed into a flower. The process was beautiful and terrifying, matter reorganizing itself at the molecular level according to human will. We don't fight wars the way you do, Dr. Han continued. We don't need to destroy your ships. We can simply convince the atoms in your hull that they would rather be arranged as something else. Water, perhaps, or breathable atmosphere. The message was clear. The humans didn't need weapons in any conventional sense. They could win any battle simply by changing the fundamental nature of matter and energy. What do you want from us? Commander Velthar asked, his voice barely a whisper. What we want, Dr. Han replied, is for the galaxy to understand that the old rules have changed. Humanity is not interested in conquest or domination. We have no need for your resources or your territory, but we will not be bullied or threatened. She paused, letting this sink in. More importantly, there's something the galaxy needs to know, something that changes everything. What? Velthar managed to ask. We didn't develop our technology to fight you, Dr. Han said grimly. We developed it to fight something much worse. Something that's coming from outside the galaxy, and it makes our civilization look primitive. The silence that followed was deafening. Every crew member on every ship was trying to comprehend what they had just heard. You mean there's something more advanced than you? Velthar asked. Much more advanced, and it will be here soon. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called within hours of the first reports from the Kepler 442 system. Representatives from 47 different species sat in the Great Assembly Hall, their attention focused on the holographic display showing the human vessels. Fleet Admiral Kekstar of the Hegemony stood before the assembly, his usually confident demeanor shaken. In 30 years of military service, he had never delivered a report like this one. Honorable delegates, he began, the situation we face is unlike anything in our recorded history. The humans possess technology that fundamentally violates our understanding of physics. The display showed footage from Commander Velthar's encounter. The delegates watched in stunned silence as the human ship absorbed a planet-killing energy beam and then casually erased an asteroid from existence. How is this possible? Demanded the Zephyrian representative, her crystalline form glowing with agitation. Our scientists say that such technology cannot exist. Our scientists were wrong, Kekstar replied grimly. The humans don't just have better weapons or stronger shields. They can manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. Meanwhile, in the Kepler 442 system, the situation was escalating rapidly. New alien fleets were arriving every few hours, and the number of ships surrounding the human vessels had grown to over 300. Admiral Dongyun Kang had arrived with 12 ships of humanity's actual military fleet, and the display of force was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Kim stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, watching the massive alien armada through his view screen. "Admiral, they seem to be planning something aggressive." Admiral Kang's image appeared on the communication display. He was younger than Kim had expected, but his eyes held the weight of enormous responsibility. "Captain, our long-range sensors show fleet movements throughout 17 star systems. This isn't just a response to first contact anymore. They're mobilizing for war." Dr. Subin Han was analyzing the alien formations from aboard the Prometheus Unbound. "Admiral, they're using a classic pincer formation. They plan to attack from multiple directions simultaneously to overwhelm our defenses." "Do they really think that will work?" asked Lieutenant Kyung-Soo Im from his communication station. "They don't understand what they're facing," Han replied. "To them, we're just another species with unusual technology. They think numerical superiority will carry the day." Admiral Kang made a decision that would change galactic history. "All ships, activate full defensive perimeters. It's time to show them what human military technology can really do." The 12 human warships spread out into a formation that seemed random to alien observers. But as their systems came online, space itself began to change around them. The first thing the aliens noticed was that their instruments stopped working properly. Sensors that had functioned perfectly for centuries suddenly couldn't detect anything beyond a few kilometers. Communication systems failed as electromagnetic radiation simply stopped propagating normally. "What's happening to our sensors?" demanded one of the alien commanders. Engineer Wubin Lee answered over the general communication channel. "We've activated what we call a reality stabilization field. Within our defensive perimeter, the laws of physics work according to our specifications. The field extended for millions of kilometers in all directions, encompassing the entire alien fleet. Within this space, the humans had effectively become gods, able to adjust the fundamental constants of nature at will." Lieutenant Kyung-Soo Im was monitoring alien communications, which were becoming increasingly desperate. "Admiral, they're trying to coordinate an attack, but their communication systems are failing. Our field is disrupting electromagnetic radiation in ways they can't compensate for." "Can they still fire their weapons?" Admiral Kang asked. "Technically, yes," replied Tactical Officer Yuna Choi from the Eternal Dawn, "but we can adjust the field to make their energy weapons useless. We can change the speed of light to make plasma beams crawl like molasses, or alter the electromagnetic force to make their particle accelerators produce flowers instead of deadly radiation." Back at the Galactic Council, the emergency session was descending into chaos. Reports were flooding in from the confrontation site, each one more impossible than the last. "They're saying the humans have created a zone where physics doesn't work normally," reported the Andromedan delegate. "How do we fight an enemy that can rewrite the laws of nature?" Fleet Admiral Kextar was coordinating with his forces in the field, but the news was uniformly bad. "All ships report severe systems malfunctions. Weapons are unreliable, sensors are compromised, and faster-than-light travel is impossible within the human field." "Then we attack from outside the field," suggested the Vegan representative. "With what?" Kextar asked bitterly. "Our longest-range weapons can barely reach the edge of their defensive perimeter. And even if we could hit them, they've already demonstrated that they can absorb our energy and use it against us." The truth was sinking in across the assembly. They weren't just facing a technologically superior enemy. They were facing an enemy that operated by completely different rules. In the Kepler 442 system, Admiral Kang was preparing to deliver the message that would define humanity's relationship with the galaxy. "Open a channel to all ships," he ordered. "Full broadcast, all frequencies." When the channel was established, Kang addressed the assembled alien fleet with calm authority. "Commanders of the galactic fleets, I am Admiral Dong Yun, Kang of the Human Defense Force. I want to make our position very clear." 3,000 alien ships listened in tense silence. "Humanity has no interest in conquest or domination. We don't want your territory, your resources, or your submission. What we want is very simple: to be left alone to pursue our own destiny among the stars. He paused, letting this sink in. However, the response to our peaceful exploration vessel suggests that peaceful coexistence may not be possible. You have mobilized the largest military force in galactic history to deal with 13 human ships. This tells us everything we need to know about your intentions. Admiral Kang gestured, and the human ships began to demonstrate their true capabilities. Reality warped and twisted around them as they showed the aliens just how outmatched they really were. What you see before you represents less than 1% of humanity's military capacity. These are patrol vessels and exploration ships. Our actual war fleet is considerably more advanced. The alien formations began to waver as ship after ship reported complete systems failures. The humans weren't attacking. They were simply adjusting local physics to make alien technology impossible. We could destroy every ship in this system without firing a single shot, Kang continued. We could rearrange the matter in your hulls to turn your vessels into habitable planets. We could accelerate time around your fleets until your crews die of old age in minutes. We could move you all to a parallel dimension where you would be alone forever. The demonstrations that followed proved each of these claims. Ships found themselves temporarily transformed into other substances, aged rapidly, and then restored, or briefly shifted to empty realities before being returned. But we won't do any of these things, Kang said finally, because as I said, we are not conquerors, we are defenders. Defenders against what? Called out Commander Velthar, his voice shaking. Something is coming from the space between galaxies, Kang replied grimly. Something that makes our technology look primitive. Our long-range sensors detected it 50 years ago, and we have been preparing ever since. The silence that followed was absolute. The entity approaching our galaxy doesn't negotiate, doesn't trade, and doesn't coexist. It consumes. It has already devoured 17 other galaxies, taking their resources and knowledge before moving on to the next target. Admiral Kang let this terrible knowledge settle over the assembled fleets. Every piece of advanced technology you have seen today was developed to fight this threat. We didn't create reality-warping weapons to conquer you. We created them because conventional warfare is useless against what's coming. How long do we have? Asked one of the alien commanders. At current approach speed, approximately 18 months, Kang replied. 18 months before something arrives that will view your combined military forces the same way you view a child's toy. The magnitude of the threat was beginning to sink in across the alien fleets. They had mobilized to fight humanity, only to discover that humanity was preparing to defend them against something far worse. What do you propose? Commander Velthar asked quietly. Alliance, Kang said simply. Share your knowledge with us, and we'll share ours with you. Work together to upgrade your technology and prepare your defenses. Help us save the galaxy. And if we refuse? Admiral Kang's expression darkened. Then in 18 months there won't be a galaxy left to refuse anything. The largest military force in galactic history hung motionless in space around the human vessels. 3,000 ships from 7 different species, representing the combined might of half the known galaxy, waited for orders that would never come. Admiral Dongyun Kang stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the alien armada with something approaching pity. They had come here expecting to face a primitive species with unusual technology. Instead, they had found something that challenged their understanding of reality itself. Admiral, reported Lieutenant Kyung-Soo Im, we're detecting coordination. Attempts across the alien fleet. Multiple species are trying to organize a simultaneous attack. Let them try, Kang replied calmly. It will be educational. The alien fleet had spent hours planning their assault. 7 different command structures had somehow managed to coordinate their efforts, creating a battle plan that should have been impossible to defend against. They would attack from every direction at once, using overwhelming firepower to saturate the human defenses. Commander Velthar, now serving as the unofficial coordinator of the alien forces, gave the final order. All ships, fire at will, full, power on all weapons. 3,000 warships opened fire simultaneously. The energy output was staggering, enough to ignite stars, crack planets, and turn entire solar systems to radioactive ash. The combined firepower of the galactic fleet concentrated on the tiny human formation. The result was not what anyone expected. Admiral Kang had ordered a minimal demonstration, and his ships responded accordingly. Instead of absorbing the energy or deflecting it, they did something far more unsettling. They changed the fundamental nature of the space around the battle zone. Within a sphere of influence encompassing the entire conflict area, the laws of physics simply stopped working. The way they should. Energy weapons fired, but the energy had nowhere to go in a space where electromagnetic radiation couldn't propagate. Particle beams launched, but the particles forgot how to maintain coherence. Missile systems activated, but explosive reactions became impossible in an area where chemical bonds had been temporarily redefined. 3,000 ships fired the most devastating salvo in galactic history, and absolutely nothing happened. "Report," demanded Velthar, staring at instruments that showed his weapons had fired, but detected no impact, no explosion, no effect whatsoever. "Sir," his weapons officer replied with a trembling voice, "all weapons fired normally, but the energy just disappeared. It's like space itself is absorbing everything we throw at it." Captain Kim opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. "Commanders, what you just experienced is what we call a defensive posture. Your weapons fired perfectly. We simply modified local space so that destructive energy cannot exist." Dr. Subin Han provided technical commentary that terrified the alien commanders. "Within our reality manipulation field, we can adjust the fundamental constants of nature. We've temporarily increased the binding energy of all atomic nuclei, making explosive reactions impossible. We've altered the electromagnetic force to prevent coherent energy beams. We've even adjusted the strong nuclear force to make your reactor cores more stable." The implications were staggering. The humans hadn't just neutralized their weapons. They had made it impossible for weapons to work at all within the battle zone. "But here's the interesting part," Dr. Han continued cheerfully. "All the energy you just fired at us has to go somewhere. We've been collecting it." Engineer Wubin Li activated the energy display systems. Throughout the human fleet, brilliant streams of captured power flowed between the ships like rivers of light. The energy from 3,000 simultaneous weapons discharges was being processed, refined, and stored in quantum batteries. "Thank you for the power boost," Wubin announced. "We now have enough energy to run our entire civilization for about 6 months." Admiral Kang decided it was time to make a point. "Commanders, you've seen our defensive capabilities. Now let me show you what we do when we're not feeling restrained." He activated the human fleet's primary weapon system, not the exotic reality warping technology they had been displaying, but something far simpler and more terrifying. "Reality anchor, full activation," he ordered. Space around the human ships became visibly distorted as 12 reality manipulation fields expanded to encompass the entire alien fleet. Within this sphere of influence, the humans could adjust physics at will, and they chose to demonstrate this power in the most dramatic way possible. One of the larger alien battleships, a hegemony dreadnought 3 kilometers long, suddenly began to change. Its hull didn't explode or melt. It simply rearranged itself at the molecular level. Metal became organic matter, weapons systems transformed into flowering gardens, and the ship's reactor core turned into a small artificial sun that provided light and warmth instead of destructive power. The crew inside was unharmed. Their atmosphere remained breathable, their gravity stayed normal, and their life support systems continued to function. But their warship had become a floating garden in space. "Molecular reconfiguration," Dr. Han explained to the stunned alien fleet. "We can convince matter to arrange itself in any pattern we choose. Your dreadnought is now a self-sustaining habitat capable of supporting 10,000 people in perfect comfort." The demonstration continued. Another ship found its hull becoming transparent, allowing the crew to see space directly while still maintaining atmospheric pressure. A third vessel discovered that its weapons had been transformed into advanced medical equipment capable of healing any injury or disease. "We're not destroying your ships," Admiral Kang announced. "We're improving them, showing you what's possible when you stop thinking about matter and energy as fixed quantities." Commander Velthar watched his fleet being systematically transformed into something beautiful and impossible. Fear warred with wonder in his mind as he realized that the humans could have just as easily turned every ship into empty space. "Why?" he asked over the communication channel. "Why not just destroy us?" "Because destroying you would solve nothing," Captain Kim replied. "Admiral Kang told you the truth. Something is coming that makes our demonstration today look like children playing with toys. Dr. Minji Park activated the long-range sensor display, showing the aliens what human technology had detected in the void between galaxies. The image was terrifying. A vast network of structures larger than solar systems, moving through space at speeds that should have been impossible. We call it the Devourer Fleet, she explained. It has consumed 17 galaxies over the past million years. Each galaxy it devours makes it stronger, more advanced, more impossible to stop. The display showed the fate of those previous galaxies, not destroyed but hollowed out, their stars dark and their planets stripped of all useful matter. Our reality warping technology, Dr. Hahn said grimly. It's our attempt to develop weapons that might actually work against the Devourer. Everything you've seen today represents humanity's best guess at what might be required to defend our galaxy. Admiral Kang let this sink in before delivering the final revelation. The entity approaching us doesn't use technology in any sense we understand. It doesn't build ships or weapons. It is the ship, it is the weapon, and it is the intelligence. That guides both. It treats the laws of physics the way we treat suggestions. Useful guidelines that can be ignored when convenient. How do you fight something like that? Asked one of the alien commanders. We don't know, Kang admitted. But we know that conventional warfare is useless. The Devourer has faced millions of civilizations, each with their own approach to military technology. None of them survived. He gestured to the transformed ships floating around them. This is why we developed reality manipulation. If physics-based weapons don't work, maybe we need weapons that exist outside physics entirely. The alien fleet was beginning to understand. Humanity's seemingly impossible technology wasn't advanced for its own sake. It was a desperate attempt to find something, anything, that might work against a threat beyond conventional comprehension. What do you need from us? Commander Velthar asked quietly. Everything, Admiral Kang replied. Every piece of knowledge, every technological insight, every creative approach to problem solving. The Devourer has consumed civilizations far more advanced than any of us individually. Our only hope is to combine everything we know and everything we can imagine. Dr. Subin Han activated the alliance proposal that humanity had been preparing for decades. We've developed upgrade packages for your existing technology, quantum enhancement protocols that can improve your weapons, shields, and propulsion systems by several 100%, reality anchor generators that can create stable zones where physics works the way you expect, dimensional storage systems that can hide your populations in parallel universes if the worst happens. And in return? Asked Velthar. Help us defend the galaxy, Kang said simply. Share your knowledge, contribute your resources, and stand with us when the Devourer arrives. The transformed ships around them served as a silent demonstration of what cooperation with humanity could accomplish. Instead of weapons of war, they had become marvels of peaceful technology. You have 18 months to decide, Admiral Kang announced. After that, the choice will be made for all of us. As the human fleet prepared to depart, leaving the day